Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai. And give double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone and do well. Salutation to the men of the Oakland, since elect. This is Brother Mark is out here in trend. I just want to do a little edification for the elect's sake. And the name of this lesson would be a sheep, not a goat. Alright, be a sheep, not a goat. Because when the Lord Yahushai, he often, associated Israel with being, sheep, all right, and him being the shepherd. Now, yes, a shepherd would have goats in his flock, but he mainly focused on, on the sheep, because what they would have done, they would have kept the goats, one side and kept the sheep separate, because, I grew up around animals, and if you ever had a sheep and a goat, breed, where you would end up with is something we would have called a hermaphrodite, right? And I've literally seen one. It looked like a female sheep. It had testicles with no penis. It literally just had a tube, so it didn't have a vagina, it didn't have a penis, and it, as I said, it looked like a female sheep, but yet the voice was sounding like a ram. So it was like a whole abomination. So the Lord, just like a shepherd will keep the sheep, and the goat separate, the Lord Yahweh Shai said, hey, look, he gonna separate the sheep from the goat. And during that separation, you want to make sure that you on the right side. Right? There's Matthew chapter 25 and verse 31. It says, when the Son of Man shall come in his glory. And where is his glory? With his chariots, all right, and the angels with him, and all the holy angels with him, then shall he sit upon the throne of his glory, and before him shall be gathered all nations, and he shall separate them one from another, as a shepherd divided his sheep from the goats. And he shall set the sheep on his right hand, but the goats on the left. Now, is it because the Lord wants to take all nations? No, he taken Israel from amongst all the nations. All right? But what he doing is the wicked of Israel, he gonna basically destroy them. And the righteous, the elect, along with the 1/3, they gonna be part of the sheep. So they're gonna be on the right hand. All right? Verse 34, it says, then shall the king say unto them on his right hand, come, ye blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. All right? Ye blessed. You want to be considered blessed. As the scripture says, blessed are they that have their names written in the Lamb's book of life. You want your name to be written in the Lamb's book of life, and also to be part of his flock, to be the sheep of his pasture. All right, why I think he told Peter, feed my sheep, feed my flock. All right, you want to be considered a sheep, not a goat. All right. Yeah, you understand? So you want to be considered a sheep. All right. This is book of Malachi chapter 3 and verse 17. It says what? And they shall be mine, saith Yahweh Shemeshah of hosts, in that day when I make up my jewels. The scripture say we are precious stones. All right. It says, and I will spare them as a man spareth his own son that serveth him. Then shall ye return and discern between the righteous and the wicked. Between what? The sheep and the goat. All right, because that is the sheep and the goat, the righteous and the wicked. The sheep is the righteous, the goat the wicked. All right, between him that serveth Yahweh and him that serveth him not. All right, so you want to be part of, the ones that gonna be saved. And how you gonna be a part of the ones that gonna be saved, a part of the righteous, a part of the sheepfold? You have to what? You have to do the things. Now are ye my servant if you do the things which I command you. All right? Because the ones that on the left, they're gonna be destroyed. All right, they're gonna be destroyed. So if you don't want to be part of that destruction, then guess what? You have to do the will of him that sent you. You have to do the will of Yahweh Shem Yahushai in all sincerity. All right, in all sincerity. And that is why we push on this truth. Because why? Because we know this truth is life, and that this truth is the means of our salvation. All right. This is the book of Psalms 95 and verse 7. It says, for he is our power, and we are the people of his pasture, the sheep of his hand. Today, if you will hear his voice. So if you will hear his voice, means that you're not only hearing what the prophets saying in the spirit of Yahweh Shemir Shai, but you also doing, because the scripture says, the fear of the Most High is wisdom, and to depart from evil is understanding. So you can't just be a hearer, but you have to be a doer of the word. That is why he said today, if you will hear his voice, hear and understand and do, then you will be considered the sheep of his pasture, of his hand. It says, harden not your heart as in the day of provocation, as in the day of temptation in the wilderness. So don't do like your forefathers did. It says, when your fathers tempted me, proved me, and saw my work, 40 years long was I grieved with this generation, and said, it is a people that do err in their heart. It says, and they have not known my ways, unto whom I swear in my wrath, they should not enter into my rest. All right. And if you are part of the goat, if you're counted part of the goat, you're not gonna enter into the rest of the Lord Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. For you to be a part of that rest, as the scripture says in Hebrews, all right, this is the book of Hebrews chapter 3 and verse 17. It says, but unto whom he was grieved 40 years was not with them that had sinned, whose carcasses fell in the wilderness, and to whom he swore that they should not enter into his rest, but to them that believed not. So we see that they could not enter in because of unbelief. And if you have an unbelieving heart, you're not going to enter in. If you don't believe the MOTB is the RFID CHIP, you're not going to enter in. If you don't believe Yahweh is his name, or Yahweh Shai is his son's name, you're not going to enter in. If you don't believe that only Israel could be saved and only Israel is the people of the Lord, if you believe that the Gentiles or the other nations could be saved, you are not going to enter in. You have to believe in this complete, unadulterated truth. All right? You have to believe in this truth. You have to believe. All right? Or you are not going to make it. But you also have to understand. All right? It says, hey, if you don't believe, you're not gonna enter in. All right? You're not gonna enter in. All right? And for the ones that not gonna enter in, this is what gonna happen to them. This is the book of Ezekiel chapter 9 and verse 4. It says, and Yahweh Hashem shall say unto him, go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark, and that mark is Thawa, goes back to be exempt from judgment. All right, let's look it up. All right, this is the book of Ezekiel 9 and 4. And when you go to the word mark, where is it? Boom, boom, boom. All right, here it is. Mark. All right.
Strong's H8420. Tav.
It goes back to what? The Hebrew tawa, which means what? A desire, a mark. It says mark, and a sign, as a sign of exemption from judgment. As a sign of exemption from judgment. So you want to be exempt from the judgment. So that mark where the Lord Yahweh Shemir Shai and pour upon his sheep is so that they could be identified as sheep and be exempt from judgment. And if you want to be exempt from judgment, you have to adhere to this doctrine. And not only that, but you have to prepare yourself, as the scripture says, if you do these things, you shall never fall. All right, read believe it's 2 Peter chapter 1, read from verse 5 all the way down, I believe, to 13. All right, do thy diligence. All right, to keep your body under subjection and to prepare your mind for Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. All right, prepare your mind. And as on the topic of preparing your mind, this wisdom of Solomon 1:1 says, love righteousness, ye that be judges of the earth, think of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai with a good heart, mind, and in simplicity of heart seek him. For he will be found of them that tempt him not, and show himself unto such as do not distrust him. For froward, unclean, impure thoughts separate from Yahweh and his power. So if you want to be a part of this world, if you trying to be in this truth, but your mind, your conscience is wicked because of the wickedness that you have going on in your head, it says what it separated from the Most High. When it is tried, reprove it the unwise. For into a malicious soul wisdom shall not enter, nor dwell in the body that is subject to sin. All right. So if you want to live, if you're doing the works, you're doing your videos, but then you subject to sin, you do all sorts of wickedness behind closed doors, you are not going to be counted as the sheep. You're not going to receive that thawa. All right. So if you want to be a part of the sheep, you have to do what is right, as the scripture says, harden not your heart as in the day of provocation. All right. So if you want to be a part of the sheep, you have to do the things that the Lord revealed unto us that pleasing unto him. All right. So with that, I want to give all praises and glory to Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. I want to give double honors to the apostles of great mercy and do real well. Salutation to the men of the Oakland Saints elect. This is Brother Marcus out here in Trinidad, saying shalom and stay strong. Shalom.